So we have some new news about President Trump's taxes in relation to some of the investigations going on in New York. Now, the big news is that a federal judge had dismissed President Trump's lawsuit seeking to block the Manhattan district attorney from obtaining President Trump's tax returns. Now, that's the investigation, of course, into some of the hush money payments made to Karen McDougal, Stormy McDaniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. So now this was U.S. District Judge Victor Marrero, who rejected Trump's argument that the presidency makes him immune to any investigation by any prosecutor. Now imagine that, right? If Obama tried to use that, I, look, hey man, look, you can't investigate me for Benghazi, Fast and Furious, because I'm immune to any investigation by any prosecutor. You know what would happen? Heads would explode over at Fox News. I can't, King Obama, I can't believe he's saying that he's immune, the laws don't apply to him. Treason! Treason! You must impeach yesterday. Okay, but now here's the president using that exact argument, and people on the right are, what? Oh no, Diane, no, nothing wrong with that. I don't hear anything. Don't see anything. Don't hear anything. Not going to say anything. Well, I'll probably say a lot, but no, don't care. Don't care. Complete and utter hypocrisy. All right. So now, in a 70-page ruling, Marrero called this claim extraordinary, which I think is a perfectly reasonable response to that, and wrote, "This court cannot endorse such a categorical and limitless assertion of presidential immunity from judicial process." Now, this order would allow District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. to enforce a subpoena he sent to Trump's longtime accountants, Mazars USA. Now, of course, immediately after this happened, Trump, of course, put. Okay, well, let me go back here. Trump had filed a lawsuit to stop that subpoena, saying that he would suffer, quote, irreparable harm if prosecutors obtained his tax returns. Now, the Justice Department also took Trump's side in that argument, which I don't think is what a Justice Department is supposed to do. They're not supposed to act as your personal attorneys. Now, let me go and discuss those 2 points, right? Based on the claim of irreparable harm. Okay, so one possibility of this, right? Tax returns come out, and he's proven to not be a billionaire. Well, that would mean irreparable harm to his image that he has cultivated over the years. Remember, with Trump, the entire mythos that he has built around himself as a really, really successful businessman who was a billionaire, super, super smart, great with money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, would be absolutely shattered. I think that is certainly incredibly possible. I don't think he's a billionaire at all. I think he's a pretender. Okay. Number one, because he's too stupid. Again, he's went bankrupt 6 times, at least 6 times. And how do you go bankrupt running casinos? Complete and utter insanity. The second piece of evidence, of course, is some partial tax returns that were leaked. That showed that he had lost over the period of, I think, 10 years, lost about $1 billion. Yikes. Really, really bad. Okay, so now, there's that. Number 2, the other possibility, which would be even more damaging for President Trump, is that his tax returns are hiding evidence of some sort of illicit activity, whether it be money laundering for other countries or tax fraud, etc. And by the way, money laundering. Saudi Arabia, Russia, those could be 2 countries. Look, already those 2 countries have given President Trump a lot. Russia has financed the Trump operations for decades. And then, of course, you have Saudi Arabia. Now, Trump loves the Saudis, and he has a great relationship with the Saudis. Why? Because they go in and they basically rent his apartments, buy his townhouses, buy his condos, etc. And so, yes, they've given Donald Trump a lot of money over the years. So look, real estate is one of those avenues of business that make it really easy to launder large amounts of money. And we certainly have examples of those over the years. So that is completely possible as well. It's also possible that both things are true. We don't really know. And that's why we're trying to get the tax returns. Which, again, I think that he's going through such a length to hide these tax returns, even so going so far as to having the Department of Justice act on his behalf. So, I think that if the tax returns come out, he could be in major, major trouble. That said, moments right after that ruling, Trump's private attorneys did ask the New York-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit to put the case on hold. The appeals court responded by issuing a temporary stay pending review by a 3-judge panel of the court. So the tax returns are not out yet. One judge said, yes, you do have to release these tax returns to the Manhattan DA. And the circuit court said, well, we need to review it first. So I don't know how long it's going to take for them to do that. So now Trump said that Vance did not need 8 years of his tax returns to examine whether any laws were broken by the 2016 payments, and so to Stormy Daniels, and called the subpoena to Mazars a bad faith effort to harass the president by obtaining and exposing his private financial information, not a legitimate attempt to enforce New York law. Now, Marrero recognized that subjecting presidents to some aspects of criminal proceedings could interfere with their presidential duties, but the judge rejected Trump's claim of absolute immunity from criminal process of any kind. Now, understand what he was asking for. Yes, again, of course, there should be some limits. I can't think of any examples. But look, if there's investigations that do get in the way of the president actually doing what he's supposed to do, that seem to be like frivolous or seem to be politically based, okay, totally. I can understand them not, being getting some of his personal information. But at the same time, he's making the argument that no, I should have absolute 100% immunity from all criminal processes of any kind. That's completely and utterly unreasonable. And as the court reads it, presidential immunity, Marrero said, would stretch to cover every phase of criminal proceedings. The constitutional dimensions of the president, shield from judicial process, are virtually limitless. Understand that if Trump's defense was applied, you could go on a crime spree. And as long as you're president, you would not be bound by the law. And that's very important. As long as you're president, you think somebody like Trump is going to voluntarily give up power? Especially if he does go on a crime spree? And I'm saying it's an if, right? If he goes on a crime spree, because he knows that while he's in office, he'll never face any sort of legal action for doing these crimes, then why would he ever leave? That's scary. The implications, of course, are incredibly problematic. You would literally be above the law. You would not be bound by the law. That's not how democracies work. And look, they don't even know if any state laws have been broken at this point, which is why, again, they're looking into the tax returns. But Trump already seems to be acting like he's guilty. And it's that same thing. If you were innocent, why are you hiding everything? It's the same thing that they will tell people, hey, man, look, if you're, if you haven't done anything wrong, then you don't have anything to hide, right? Well, in this case, Trump is hiding everything. And so it makes him look pretty guilty. But we would have to see. We'd have to see. So now there's one more thing here about the tax returns. We could have already actually had them if it weren't for other people protecting Donald Trump. Now, surprisingly, it's not a Republican that's been protecting Donald Trump. No, this was Democratic committee chairman for the House Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal. Richard Neal has actually defended Trump quite a bit. All we would have had to do for investigations is to simply ask him to use his power to access Donald Trump's tax returns, which he would be legally able to do so. Richard Neal said no. He said, I'm not going to do it. You know why? Well, we find out that Richard Neal has also not released his tax returns. And that gets me to, of course, why there are people that are still defending Donald Trump when it comes to some of these financial issues. They defend him because most likely they've also committed the same kinds of financial crimes that the president might be accused of doing. So, look, powerful people defend each other, and more importantly, defend themselves from the same types of crimes that the others commit or may have committed. That's the number one rule, man. Don't go after other members of the club. That same club they used to beat you down with. So that's unfortunately the lesson that we have learned in all of this. So I don't know. We'll see. Depending on what that 3-judge panel it finds, whether or not the DA of New York will actually be able to access those tax returns and go forward with those cases with that investigation into, of course, those supposed hush money payments made in 2016, which could be a political contribution, which, as we all know, is not, in this case, would not be legal. It would far surpass campaign finance limits. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.